For us as black men, everything around us is hinged upon how we perform, how strong you are, how many women can you have, how much money can you make, what type of car you drive. Many men are walking around and they're just playing a role. They get home and realize that playing the role is exhausting, but there's no one to show them anything else. June is Men's Mental Health Month, and I'm going to be doing a series of conversations with some brothers who are doing the work, some brothers who are doing fascinating things, in the space of mental wellness, but also brothers who are going to be sharing their stories and share their journey. And so tonight I have my first guest. JoJo, how you doing, brother?
What's up, my brother Jay? How you been, man? How you been?
Man, I'm doing good, brother. Doing good, man. We got the whole setup here. I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, and then we're going to get started, brother.
Oh, yeah. Many people know me by the moniker stage name JoJo Simmons from, reality TV shows Run's House, growing up with my family, and also reality TV show Growing Up Hip Hop with a few other kids of the same, I guess you say, world of me and my sisters. Been in reality TV my whole life. Now, entrepreneur, and been a heavy advocate in not only the cannabis space, but in the mental health space for the last maybe 2 or 3 years. So yeah, man, I'm honored to be here. When you contacted me to come do this, I was, I said absolutely, with the quickness, because every time I have a chance to advocate or speak out for men's mental health and mental health in a full, I'm always down to do it, because I feel like it's a necessary thing for the community, especially our community, to be vulnerable and to be transparent when it comes to saying that we do need to be, we do need therapists sometimes, and we do need to be speaking about these things and speaking to other people that are like-minded, that are willing to listen to us and willing to also be vulnerable with us as well.
Absolutely, brother. And I think you couldn't have said it any beautiful than how you articulated. And thank you for accepting this invitation. And as I spoke earlier, as we were getting on, that I'm going to be doing this with a series of other brothers. I have Jason Wilson. I have my brother Drew, my brother Correga, some really dope brothers, man, that are really doing some great work. So JoJo, we got to see you grow up, man, right before our eyes. I remember your dad sitting in the tub, and his famous sort of cutout when he was, exiting the show, and he would be, kind of giving these messages. And as I watched the show, it was very telling for me how important it was to have a father in the house, but then a father that could just kind of have these conversations, because we got to see you guys have all different types of conversation, all different types of interaction as a family. And it was almost like, we were sitting in your living room as you guys were living life and those things. And so my first question to you was, growing up hip hop and having the experience of having your life lived with your family, center stage, was that a big impact to your mental health as you have sort of traversed into this space the past couple of years?
Oh, 1000%. As a child, we all, it wasn't like I didn't want to be famous or I didn't want to be on TV. Like, you're a kid, of course, you want to, that sounds cool, right? Oh my God, I'm going to be a star, I'm going to be on TV. But in the same sense, you don't see the flip side of how, a lot of negativity could come your way, a lot of fake people could come your way, a lot of comments that when you're in a very vulnerable stage of your life, when you're kind of molding yourself as a teenager, especially for me, I was 14 when I first started TV. I was still finding myself, right? I was still looking to find who I was. And sometimes, being out there, you'll hear things about yourself that you'll start to attach to yourself and you'll start to believe, because you really weren't able to find who you were. You were kind of thrown into the spotlight where everybody was kind of spewing their opinions on you, and you were kind of still trying to figure it out. So not only do you have that, you have people that are coming at you that, may not have the best intentions for you. You have, I really couldn't, and I don't want to ever seem like I'm downplaying or saying that what I was blessed with is not a blessing. It was totally a blessing, yeah. But it was also a lot of things I couldn't do as a teenager. I was no longer a normal teenager. Before I was doing TV, I was a guy that could walk outside. You wouldn't have known I was Reverend's son. How could you tell, right? How could you tell this kid is Reverend's son unless there's a show that sits there and says, oh, these are Reverend's kids, right? So I think that it was a very big switch for me mentally, because it made me have to like always turn this switch on of being now JoJo Simmons, the celebrity, and not, that's why you saw all these, things about me of getting arrested for cannabis and doing this. It was this kid trying to battle with being a celebrity on TV, but being a child, being the kid that makes mistakes, being a kid that wants to be outside with his normal friends that he had before he got on TV, right? So I think all of that played into my mental health, because it was a lot that I was going through of balancing, I guess you would say, a work life and a regular life, because I was still in high school. I'm filming these reality TV episodes, and I'm going to school the next morning and coming home from school and filming. So it's not like I was just this star in the house. It was like, go to school, get your homework done, but then come home and record. You know what I mean? I come home and film. So like that also played a very big mental toll on my mental health of, dang, I have all of these things to juggle as a teenager in high school still.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you share that, because I think when you talk about what I'm hearing is performance. And I think that that's what a lot of men find themselves at. And it starts early on, right? We learn how to perform, because performance gets us the hand claps, right? The performance gets you, you know what I mean? The validation.
It feels good.
Right?
It feels good. That's why I said I didn't ever want to make it seem like, oh my God, what I had wasn't a blessing. It felt great to one day walk in the mall and be a nobody, and the next day walk in the mall and all the girls are chasing you out of it, right? That part felt great. But then you live off of that high of, I always want the hand claps. So when they're not clapping for you, mentally, you're going to go crazy, because you don't know how to get those hand claps, and everything you do, you try to get that attention from people. It's based off of the hand claps that you got prior. So them hand claps made you, in your sense. It was like those hand claps made me. If I couldn't find a hand clap from somebody or a word of, oh, you're doing a good job, it made me feel so down, because I was built off of that.
Man, listen, brother, you speaking my language. I'm a former ball player, and I think the difficulty, whether you were an athlete, no matter what you are, and let me just say this for the audience, just to add some context. I think one of the most difficult things for us as men is that we often identify ourselves by what we do. And when what we do is no longer the thing that what we can do, we find ourselves in a difficult place mentally, because what I did was who I was. And that was a difficult challenge for me to transition out of ball, because I didn't know who I was outside of putting a helmet on. And as you're saying, you didn't know who you were outside of this character, JoJo Simmons, right? This sort of character that you were in the house. And, one of the things is that it takes time to have an enlightenment that you are not what you do. And it took so much work. It took so much prayer. It took so much discovery. And then it also took unpacking, because I had attached myself to what I did, because what I did allowed me to be seen. And when we are not seen as men, we don't know what to do.
We don't feel valued. We don't feel valuable. We don't feel valuable if we can't do what people say we're good at, or we know that we're good at. It's the same thing, Jay. Like, if I'm being real with you, I might have figured out that 2 years ago. Literally, I might have figured out that the entertainer I was is not who I am. I am not just this kid that has to turn on this entertainment for the world. I can go turn around right now and go be a construction worker if I want. That's where I'm mentally at right now. It's like nobody would make me feel any different if I said, hey, I want to go turn left and go be somebody else. Why? Because I finally had to figure out that just because I'm this funny reality TV guy, I don't want that to be who I am, and I don't want my relevancy to be based off of that, because then it will never be an end for me. It will always be looking for relevancy in that space. And I felt like I no longer wanted that. I want to be like with this whole, my 3 is for media brand. It's been great for me because now I'm able to make content and not have to always be the content, right? You know what I mean? Man, so I'm able to be free, and I'm able to feel like, wow, I don't have to be the guy that's like, well, how do I look? How do I feel? You know, how is my outfit right? No, I could just be there and be me and just be. I've learned in life to just be sometimes. I want to just be in the space. If I'm gonna go out with my wife, yeah, I told her, hey babe, people may want to take pictures with me, cool, I'll do that. But I just want to be me. I want to have fun. I don't want to go out and dance and feel like I'm being goofy and somebody can say, look at JoJo Simmons, look, who cares? I want to just be in a space of being me. You know what I mean? And I think that that's like the best part of life.
Man, Joe, when brother, listen, and I know I may be a few years, older than you, man, but to hear you come to that realization that you are no longer a human doing, that you are just a human being, it is one of the most beautiful things, man. And this is the evolution that I hope for so many brothers, and particularly for us as Black men, because everything around us is hinged upon how we perform. Everything is hinged upon how we show up in the world based off of how strong you are. How many women can you have? How much money can you make? What type of car you drive? And there's such a level of freedom that you get to not only experience, but you get to live in. And I love that for you, man. I don't care if it was just last year that you experienced that. And I know you said that 2 years, but it is for the mere fact, brother, that you are living in complete freedom. One of the things, man, when I began my therapy journey 10 years ago, and I'm sitting there and the therapist is asking me, why are you here? And bro, I would never forget this as long as I live. I said, man, I just want to be free. I just wanted to be free from the memories, from the pain, from the trauma, you know what I'm saying? From the pictures that often would play in my head from what daddy did, from what daddy said, from what I thought I should have had. And man, the freedom that I got when I began unpacking. And that's what I want brothers who are watching, and even the sisters that are watching. Let me tell you this. It's very rare that you see what you're seeing tonight, to have two Black men sharing their journey, and to hear this brother talk about the freedom that he's experiencing, that he no longer feels like he has to be a character. And believe it or not, many men are walking around and they're just playing a role. They get home and realize that playing the role is exhausting, but there's no one to show them anything else. And my prayer, my mission, as I know what your mission is we've even talked about creating content for brothers to identify with, brother, there is a life where you can experience a very expansive view of a different version of yourself than what you were presented. You know what I mean, brother? So, brother, when I tell you, I love that for you, man. So I want to ask you this question, JoJo. What was that breaking point that led you to begin your journey to discovering who you were outside of playing a character?
Man, I think it goes further back than 2 years ago, but I would say why I finally was able to find that freedom 2 years ago is because I finally was able to sit down and really see myself, right? But really when my daughter was born, I really went on a path of trying to figure out how to love myself the best way I could so that I can love her and my wife the best way I could. You know what I mean? So having that breakthrough was more or less I need to find out who I am. I need to find out what I'm supposed to be doing in life and what my purpose is, right? So I think it all started with me trying to find my purpose. And that all ties into what we were just talking about, of realizing my purpose wasn't to be this entertainer. That was something that I'm good at, but that just wasn't necessarily what I had to do. It was something it's you with football, something you were good at, but it's not something that you had to do, right? So when I started looking for who I am, what makes me happy, and I realized that like you said, man, I don't want all the women. I don't need to have 5 cars. I just wanted to be happy with what I built and what I have going on. And that's why I say one of my proudest accomplishments is the family that I made, not the family I came from, right? I came from a great family, but the family that I'm making is my proudest accomplishment. So yes, everybody says, oh, Simmons family, Simmons legacy. Yes, I'm so proud to come from that. But I'm even prouder to make my own Simmons family.
Man,
I love
the
fact that I've made my own Simmons family, and I get to create my own legacy. And I have my own son named Joseph Simmons III, and I've got my daughter Mia Simmons. And I love the fact that I'm able to just know that this is what is my riches in life. Of course, I want to make a whole lot of money. Of course, I want to put them on private jets and we do fun stuff. But my riches ultimately in life are looking at my family, knowing that I got them, they got me, and I've created such a beautiful family. So that was the breakthrough for me, was my family. Was me saying, okay, what do I want in life? I had a child with my damn near my high school sweetheart almost. Like, we met, she was fresh out of high school, I was only 19. And, I realized I've been with this woman so long, and I had our first child, and when I married her, and I was like, man, like, this is what life's about, right? For me,
yes.
My purpose was to be this man, the family man that like can still hustle, work hard, get his money, but come home to back rubs and hugs from my wife and kisses from my kids, right? So that was the breakthrough for me, was knowing that I didn't need to keep up with anybody in the hip hop space or the space around me that said I needed to keep up. Once I found out I didn't need to keep up and I can like kind of coast in my own lane, is when I realized like, that's the breakthrough. The breakthrough is I don't need to prove nothing to anybody,
man,
but to myself.
Man, come on, Joe. Brother, listen, man, you know, brother, when I tell you, man, you are blessing me tonight on this live.
Oh,
man.
Thank you, man. I'm just talking, brother. I'm just being vulnerable.
But you know what, though, Joe? What I've realized, especially when we do this as Black men, is sometimes there is this apprehension to not be vulnerable because there's this fear of how will a brother view me. And one of the most liberating thing is, because I could tell you this, sometimes people get free, but they don't get liberated. But what I'm hearing from you is you've been liberated and you've got your freedom. And that's something a lot of people do not get to experience. They don't get the both, they kind of have one or the other. And I think the most beautiful thing about you that I'm seeing as a young man is that you discovered you beyond the messages, beyond the hearsay, beyond the character. And it's so beautiful because when you are really free, because here's the thing, vulnerability is always a risk. But when you're free, you're okay with that risk.
Yeah.
Because I've discovered enough of myself that there's nothing that you can say to me, say about my experience.
To make me feel any way about how I feel.
To make me feel any kind of way. Because it doesn't have a hold of me. And that's what I tell people. It's hard for me to really go back to so many places that I've experienced. And I mean, in 42 years, man, I've gone through a lot. So when I stand on stage and pour into men, there is no disruption in my pour, because I've healed the daddy wounds. I've healed the mom wounds. I've healed all of the wounds that eliminate from me pouring. Yeah. Because most times men can't pour from what they don't have within them. And so your ability to pour into your family is because you poured into you first.
And somebody, this is a very important part of it too, Jay. Was somebody had to tell me this one time. I was holding on to all these past things about myself, past things I went through, and past what people thought of me. And somebody said, yo, man, you got to let that go. You started a new chapter a long time ago. People are not going to remember you for something that you don't give any attention to. You can create a new you any given day, but you have to let go of what holds you down.
Come on.
You have to let go of what holds you down, because those things that are holding you down, when you let that go, you'll start holding yourself up. And it was the truest thing I ever heard. And that helped me so much. It was like, I thought every time I walked in a room, people thought what I was thinking in my head of me. That's the worst feeling. Now, that's what mental health is about, right? Mentally, we're walking in a room like, this person is thinking something happened to me 10 years ago that might have been in the tabloids. They're thinking it. When they're not even thinking it, they're probably just happy to be in my presence. And I had to realize that just move with that energy of happiness and appreciativeness of being here. And even if they are talking about it, it holds no merit to you, because at the end of the day, you know who you are and you strongly are confident in what you are.
Man, brother, when I tell you, you teaching, like, this is sound teaching. I saw a question that I really that I want to go to. I saw somebody ask, "Can you heal 100%?" Here is the thing: healing is a journey, right? And when I say that it's a journey, it means as a process that you have to not only endure, but you have to be fully and be willing to participate in that process.
For sure.
The goal is not to heal 100%. The goal is to heal and to become self-aware. Are there some things that I still at sometimes go, you know what, that kind of caught me, right? You know what I mean? And so, I'll be transparent. Like there are some things that me and my father still wrestle with today, right? Now, there are men in my life that pour into me on a consistent basis, right? There are men that I connect with that's going to check on me. They're going to send me prayers. They're going to send me voice texts. I would love to have that from my father. However, I know my father doesn't have the capacity to give me that. So here's what healing allows me to do. Healing allows me to minimize that expectation.
Yeah.
Would it be nice to get? Would it be nice to receive? But healing allows me to know enough about him that I don't have an expectation for somebody who doesn't have the capacity to give it to me, right? And it doesn't change that I want it, but it changed my posture in the expectation of it. So even though it would be nice to get it, I don't allow that thing to hold me and weigh me down in such a way that it doesn't allow me to pour into another man.
Right. That's deep.
And that's what healing does. Healing frees you to where you don't have a hole in your hose, and now you cannot move forward in life because you said something so powerful. I said this to a client one day. We were probably on the 4th or 5th session, and we would make progress, and then we would sort of take some steps back. We would make progress, and we would take some steps back. She had a difficult time of letting go. And so I said to her, I said, what would it feel like to let go? She says to me, to not allow it to have a hold of me. And I said, do you know what you have to do to not allow it to have a hold of you? Let go of it.
You gotta let it go.
And because here's what we'll do. We'll hold on to things because part of holding on to something is also what solidifies our significance that we were once injured. Because if I let go of it, I now have to find a different reason to identify myself by, which is why I tell people, be careful to always show up and say, well, this happened to me, that happened to me. That's why I'm acting like this. This is why I behave like this. This is like, again.
Let it go.
And here's the other thing. Letting go doesn't mean that it happened in an instant. Letting go means you make a conscious decision daily to not allow it to hold its grip on you.
Yeah.
That's what letting go it is. And you look up one day and that thing does not have the same impact that it did in a previous season. So, man, I love that, man, for you, brother.
Deep.
Man, you really blessing me, man.
Man, you blessing me too, man. You really, man, this is amazing, man. Like, I expected this, but it always feels like therapy, you know what I'm saying, when we have conversations. So like, love this, and I see we have a whole lot of people in here giving a whole lot of comments. So like, I really do appreciate everybody in here that's really like, you know, grasping what we're talking about. And if it's helping them, like, you know, men's mental health doesn't get spoken about enough. So like, for people like me and you with our platforms to do this, and especially on a platform like this where it's free, and for these, you know, for people to really hear these things, it's an amazing thing, man. And I love doing it, you know.
Man, brother, and again, you know, I can't, you know, say this enough to appreciate your willingness to do this, man, and to help men, because what I love to see is Black men evolve.
Yeah.
I love to see an evolution of a Black man. I love to see a man who started off here and he grew to this. I love to see a man who was over here and he kind of lost his way, but some way he found his way and then he began to evolve, and then he began to pour back, then he began to grow, and then he began to water other areas of his life and water
That's
those.
the process.
Man, bro, that's such a process, man. Talk about that a little bit, JoJo, that process.
The process of self-healing.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, it's a process every day. It's still happening today, right? I think like it's what you nailed it earlier when you were like, man, the journey, it's a journey, right? And it's not like you're gonna 100% heal yourself. It's always every day. It's still things that are going to affect you, but you can't let it affect you to the point where it controls you, right? So at the end of the day, like you have to be aware. I love that you said you have to be aware. You have to hold yourself accountable too for why things affect you and what you can do better, right? So I think the process is it's real. It's what you just said is everything of what I went through, of like finding myself, then losing it again, and then finding myself again, because that may happen in your process, right? Things are gonna knock you back down where it's like you're just like F it, right? And you're just like, oh man, I'm right back into that sunken place. So that can happen. So the process is real, but I think what's more important in the process are the people that you have to utilize in the process, right? You need to make sure that you're around people that have your best interests, and you need to be making sure that you're talking to people that wholeheartedly love you. And sometimes you don't know who wholeheartedly loves you, but the people that listen to you are the most important people in that process, because sometimes as men especially, we just need somebody to hear us. We just need somebody to listen to us. We just want to talk.
Right.
And sometimes people don't. They say they listening to us, they say they hear us, but they're not really listening to us, right? And I think that that's part of the process, is being able to, that's why I think music artists, being a music artist is good sometimes, because when we don't feel like people can hear us, we put it into our songs, or we write it into a verse or something like that, right? Because that's the way that we feel heard. We can hear it through speakers. So I think that like finding people that, groups like this, people like you, people like me, that are really willing to listen to you and willing to there are people out there that can help you with your process. The process is having people help you with the process. I feel like, to me, you can't do it alone. You know what I'm saying? No, isolation is sickness. I've learned that since I was young. I learned that in the church. I know you were in the church. We learned that isolation, trying to do things on your own, it never really works out, because it's a sickness to be alone, right? You need people to water you, just like you need to water yourself. And not all the time when you're going to get those people to water you. So you have to make sure that you don't let the people that once watered you, make sure that they're not the ones that are growing you, right? They have to be, they can be the ones to help you, but you got to grow yourself. And I think growing yourself is really, like I said, holding yourself accountable and talking to people that are constantly going through the same process. You know what I mean? Like people like you, you're easy to talk to because you've been through the process, and your story is so relatable to some people. And you've been, like I tell you all the time, like I've been through some times of very bad times where I felt depressed, but I haven't been through what you've been through, where I've heard your story.
Right.
So it's like talking to people like you, it empowers me to be like, wow, his story has inspired me and motivated me to be like, if he can get over that, then I can get over anything. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's part of the process, is seeing the other testimonials and seeing the people that can inspire you to be like, yo, I can get out of anything. That's one of the things I teach, is like people let the moment control them too much. And they need to realize that you've been through so many bad moments that you've gotten over. So that bad moment that you're going through, it never sticks. So you just gotta, you gotta see it through, and you just can't let it control you. That's part of the process, is finding out how to not let it control you. And it's gonna be a hard unpacking, like you say. Sometimes it's not easy. The process starts off very hard because you have to look in the mirror. You're gonna have to go through, you're gonna have those memories that bothered you. You're gonna have to maybe go back to your childhood to say, well, I didn't like when my dad did this to me, because now I know why I act like this with my wife, or now I know why I act like this with my friends, because it's something from my childhood. So it's gonna be a whole lot of unpacking. It's gonna be a whole lot of self-reflection, and that's gonna help you in your process, is looking in the mirror, and not the actual literal mirror, but like, the mirror of self, and saying, well, why does this bother me? And can I get over this? And how can I get over this? And you may cry, and you may really go through some things that you may be praying to the Lord and dropping to your knees. I've done it. You know what I mean?
Man,
and it's okay to do it as a black man, as a man. I know black men, of course, but I speak to all men too. It's like, it's okay to cry and to confide into somebody. Like if you have a significant other that really really, you could confide into, it's okay to. You know what I mean? And it's okay to really be vulnerable and come to these spaces and be vulnerable. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a lot of the process, is learning how to open up.
Man, so here's the word that I hear. Man, you said so much, brother. But the word that I hear, and for those men that are watching, I'm listening to the comments, until you are ready to come to the end of yourself,
Right.
and this goes for a man or woman, you have to be willing to surrender. You have to be willing to give it to God, give it to the therapist, give it to the counselor, give it to the coach. And many times we're afraid to not give it because keeping it has gotten us seen.
Yeah.
Because sometimes being sick gets you attention.
Yeah.
Because if you get healed, you no longer have the attention. Because some people are afraid to heal because they now have to become someone new.
Right.
And many times we are like, especially brothers, like men come to me often and they often say to me, Jay, how did you get here? And you said something. I was on my knees in my bedroom and I said, God, I am ready to let this go. Now, that was the surrendering. The process was going to therapy.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something, I believe in Jesus and therapy. Because you and I can speak from these perspectives because we grew up in the church. And it wasn't so much that God was going to heal me, but God was going to put me in the path of the right therapist to walk me through that healing journey. Because you have to understand that there's nothing that you're going to get in this life that is not going to come through a person.
Yeah.
It's going to come through a person. You cannot heal alone. Brothers, stop sitting in your car alone. Stop sitting in the corners alone. The enemy loves isolation.
Yeah.
He loves isolation. One of the stories I love to talk about in the Bible is when I, use the reference to how we saw depression and anxiety in the Bible when it came to the story of Elijah. And you see him in one moment have a great victorious moment called fire down from heaven, kills all of the prophets of Baal. And all of a sudden he gets one word from Jezebel that says, by this time tomorrow, I'm going to do to you what you did to those prophets. How is it that in one moment you were almighty powerful, trusting God? This woman made one statement and it sent you into the desert to where you became suicidal. And I'm talking about this because some men have allowed one mistake, one word, one phrase, one missed opportunity to send them into the desert.
Yeah.
And to send them in a corner. And let me tell you something, when you get in that desert, and if you really read the story, Elijah had an assistant with him. The scripture said he left his assistant to go into the desert. Many times we leave circles that will support us, but this isolation with these men and with brothers, oh, I don't need nobody, I can do this on my own. Let me tell you something, that Lone Ranger stuff will get you killed.
Yeah.
It will get you killed. And what I'm saying, get you killed, meaning it may be a physical death, it may be an emotional death, it may be a spiritual death, it may be a mental death, because there's a lot of men who have died and are still living.
For sure. A lot of men that are dead right now, they're still living.
They're walking dead. And what I'm saying to you, brothers, what I'm saying to you, you cannot do this alone. You cannot do this alone. I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. I know I'm anointed. I know I got power, but I'm going to tell you what I know that I can't do. I'm not going to sit in the house and know that I'm being attacked and not pick up the phone and call one of my brothers and say, hey, man, let's pray. Hey, brother, I need to process something with you. Hey, bro, I need to talk about this, man. Hey, bro, I need to run this by you. We have to get comfortable with being open. But I get why men are not open. We're not open because we've been judged when we have.
Yes.
And so for the women that are on tonight, because women are always asking me, how do I get men to open? How do I get men to open up? And here's the thing, everybody's talking about a safe place, but let me tell you something. Not all safe places have safe people.
It's true.
Not all safe places have safe people. Identify if the individual is safe first.
Yeah.
Before you start telling somebody or trying to figure out. Because see, if you tell me it's a safe place, I know that it's not.
Right.
Because safe doesn't say it's safe. You identify that it's safe.
You feel it. You know when it's safe. Safe doesn't have to tell you it's safe. You'll feel it. You'll know when you're in a safe place.
It's no different. Like somebody said, I'm a good person. Like, don't tell me. Let me see you're a good person.
Yeah,
and sometimes, ladies, and let me tell you something, ladies. I love my sisters, but I think that some of you have to get off the gas with this whole, I'm a safe place for him. Allow us to discern that.
Right.
Because I believe this is just me. I believe women have intuition. I believe men have insight. Brothers, use your insight to see inwardly and to see in them to see if there's a place where I should be open. Is this a place where I should take off my hat? And I'm using this hat metaphorically to not saying the physical hat, but a hat means that you can sort of feel like you can be comfortable. You know what I mean?
It's important because once a man gets comfortable and you lose his trust, he may not never get comfortable again. And that's even worse on their mental health, because now a man's like, I tried it before and I don't know if I'll ever try that again. That's the thing about men. And that's us as men. We just like, if I give you this, you may be the only one to ever get it. You know what I mean? It's women, like he says, and I'm married, but he's talking truth. It's like, please understand, let us make you our safe place when we feel it is that time. You'll know when a man or your man sees you as a safe place. And don't be offended if right now you aren't. That doesn't mean he doesn't love you, doesn't mean anything. But men unpack differently than women.
Man, come on, say that again, JoJo.
Men unpack differently than women. We're more emotional than women think. But we don't seem like it because we keep it all inside. So once it all comes out, it's a very vulnerable and transparent state of us. It's going back to how we really feel and who we really are and what really ticks us and what really does this and what really does that. And once we give you that, we feel like we've let you into who we actually are.
Man, and let me tell you something. Because see, now we know that we've given you a lot of power.
We gave you all the power.
Because the power is in the information.
Yes.
That's the power. Because I know what I have given you, you now have the power to destroy me. Because, and here's the thing, women, and I've seen times in therapy, man, where I've seen some women, like a few years ago, I used to counsel a lot of couples, and I remember this brother being open in the session. And I was watching the wife's body language, but as he was talking, what I discerned was that she was listening, and to me felt like she was loading her gun.
With information.
And he said to her, this is scary for me, because what I'm afraid is that when I am not enough, you're going to use this information against me. That is what we fear, ladies. And let me say this. We're not as emotional resilient as women.
Exactly.
We are not as emotional resilient as women because psychologically we weren't developed, and that's a whole nother conversation. Socially, we're not developed the same. And then emotional, we're not developed the same. So when we have an experience, you say, I'll love again. We say, I'll never do that again.
You nailed it. Say it again. That's the truth.
I would never say it again. Bro, I can tell you, I'd never forget this. And I'm going to share this story. I was in my 20s dating a girl. She was in the church. I was in the church. And I had shared something with her about my father. I was not Jay that I am today. And I was struggling hard. And man, we got into this little disagreement. And bro, she said, well, that's why your dad did this and he blah, blah, blah. Bro, when I tell you, she tried to retract. I told her, I said, it's a wrap.
Never again.
Never again. I mean, and we had been dating for about 5-6 months and it was cool, but she was of a different denomination, and I'm not gonna say the denomination because it is a very self-righteous denomination, and people probably can probably discern which one I'm saying. Like, they're very judgmental. And I looked at her and I said to her, I said, why would you do that? I'm just saying, like, you ain't talking about blah. But I said, why would you do that? And let me tell you something, man. Most of my life, I'm the only boy. Most of my life, if somebody said that's why you can't be unequally yoked, yes. However, you don't, like, here's the thing, and I want to address this because sometimes dating is such a vigorous process carefully. And I'll be honest, there wasn't a sexual relationship between me and this young lady. I can be transparent. We were getting to know each other. Right. We were both, saving ourselves and this and that. But I also saw how judgmental her parents were. And so in this moment, and here's the thing, unequally yoked is not always attached to somebody not doing what you don't do. Sometimes unequally yoked is that we don't have the same reverence for things in agreement that are in alignment that holds respect for the both of us in the relational dynamic. Wow. And so I saw that, and it showed me something about her own stuff, because what the venom that she released on me was also the venom that she could not release on her father. Ooh,
right. Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
And in my 20s, I was all over the place, but I was always locked in spiritually, because I'm saying to her, like, what, like, what's going on? But then I often heard conversation about her being mad at her dad because her dad was he wanted her to be perfect. And so I can't remember what I did. I don't know what I did, but when I didn't meet her standard and I failed, it was like boom, 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 boom. And then I realized, I said, oh, this has nothing to do with me, even though the bullet hit me, but it wasn't for me.
You caught the stray.
I caught the stray. And so many times, if we're not careful, we can find ourselves in an emotional drive-by catching a stray that doesn't have anything to do with us. And so, of course, I left that relationship or whatever, but it was very damaging for me, JoJo, because it took years. I'm talking about years, well into my 30s. And I was engaged. I remember being engaged. I was engaged, and I can sit here and tell you today that I was not honest in a relationship. And I'm not talking about cheating or anything, but I was not going to say certain things because I was like, no, I'll sit on that. I'll hold that. I'll bite my tongue. I just wasn't. And it took me years of healing. And for me to get to a place where I was healed enough to understand that my vulnerability wasn't for her or anyone else, it was for me.
Yeah.
And that's what I want men to know. And there's some brothers that are married. Vulnerability is not just for your spouse. It's for you.
Yeah.
Can you be open with you?
Yes. Yes.
Can, as you said earlier, can you sit in the mirror on the floor and stare at yourself and accept everything that you are not? Because it's easy to accept the things that you love about yourself, but can you accept the things that you are not?
Yes.
And what I knew, JoJo, I knew I wasn't who I wanted to be. I knew I wasn't well enough to be somebody's husband. And we called the engagement off. It was a mutual agreement. But I also knew that I wasn't vulnerable. And I even said to her, I was like, you don't know me. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, you don't know me. And that one thing, man, allowed me to make a decision, because had we got married, we would have been just going through the motion.
Yeah.
But when I got into therapy and started really unpacking, I realized that that incident had caused so much fear and anxiety for me to be so closed off. And let me say this, brothers, and I want you to close us out, JoJo. Until you are vulnerable with yourself, you can never experience a healthier version of you.
Yeah. You also got to face your traumas. You know, your traumas don't, you grow up, but your traumas don't grow. And what I mean that is it keeps you at the same age. So when something affects you that might have affected you as a child, you're going to react to how you acted as a child, because your traumas don't grow with you. They go with you. So at the end of the day, you're taking your traumas in the future with you, but it's still those same trauma that affected you at 8, 9, 12, 14. It's like what you just said, Jay. You knew that those things affected you and that you needed to figure out a way to let that not affect you no more, to have a solid relationship with whoever, you know what I mean? So I think that a lot of people got to understand that it's gonna hurt dealing with those traumas, but it's gonna feel better when you realize that those traumas aren't who you are, and you can shed that old skin, which is meaning, like a lot of you said earlier too, is like people are afraid to grow and to be something different. But that's a great thing, to be something different and to grow. Growing and changing is a blessing. You don't want to be the same person. Being the same person means you didn't evolve. You know what I mean? So you got to shed the skin. You got to shed the old skin, shed the negative skin, shed everything that weighed you down in the past, and become the butterfly you're supposed to be and fly. You know what I mean? You got to shed the skin. You got to shed the old things that are weighing you down. And you got to just, like you said, I think the most important thing we said this whole thing is finding the right support system. Finding a circle of brothers, a circle of people that are the perfect support system for you.
Man, brother, listen, man, you dropped the bar, good brother, that I've never heard. And I hope, and I see the chat blowing up, of that bar that you dropped. Your traumas don't grow, they go with you. And somebody put one of my favorite books in the chat, The Body Keeps Score. Let me tell you something. Your body tells everything about you, whether you know it or not.
Right. Yeah.
You may be saying one thing out of your mouth, but your body will always tell on you, because what you don't heal, it will be revealed through the way that you show up.
What you don't heal, it will be revealed is amazing. Wow.
Yep, and the way that you show up, it's going to be revealed in the way that you don't show up, man. And so, brother, listen, JoJo, man, listen, to everybody who has stayed on, I want to say thank you guys.
Thank you
for tuning in tonight to this series. How you feel, bro? We've got to hear my brother, good friend JoJo. We got to hear how he feels. Next week, I got my good brother Dre Davis, and I got my good brother Correga. We're gonna have two brothers on next Tuesday night. It's gonna be a very powerful live. My brother Correga just welcomed a new baby, so we want to talk about how a man changes when his family grows. And then also how a man changes when things around him begin to shift in his family dynamic. I'm tuned into that
one. Oh man, I'll be in the chat saying everything, because I mean that was my growth came from my creation of my family. I was like, all right, who am I going to be? What am I going to be?
Man.
Do I want to be this player guy? Or I want to really be this family. And ultimately, I was like, man, I'm Rev Jr. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna be, not to say that I'm him, but like that's what I saw and that's what I love. And that I was the guy since a kid, like, I'm gonna be married with family. So like, I always knew what I wanted, and to have it is great. So I'm ready for that one. I can't wait to do that.
Yeah, man. Drew is a good friend of mine, man. Like I said, I'm bringing some solid brothers on, and I'm so excited about this series, and I'm so, proud of the people that have stayed on. So we'll be back next Tuesday, same time. But let me tell you, if you are connected to a brother, please, and I say this with a sense of urgency, please just smile at that brother. You would be surprised of how many men who never receive a smile from anybody.
Ooh, For sure.
I run into so many brothers, man, and I'll literally be like, man, how you doing, black man? How you doing, King? What's up, good brother? And it changes their spirit.
Their body language,
so many
everything.
brothers, their body language, man. So many brothers are weighted down with expectation. So many brothers are exhausted from performing. So many brothers don't have what JoJo and I have. We don't talk all the time, but when we talk and we connect, we pick right back up where we left off. So many men are isolated.
Oh, I have random conversations in public on purpose. I find a brother sometimes in a store and I just, hey, how you doing? Or, hey, I like your sneakers. And it changes everything. They may look like they're mean mugging or whatever. And yo, man, where'd you get those kicks from? I was looking for those. I already know where to get the kicks from. I just want to make this man smile. I just want to have a conversation because he looks like he needs it.
Yes.
So I think we should close off with everybody should find somebody to ask what this title is. How you feel, bro?
Yep. How you feel, bro? How you feel? So smile at a brother, ask him how he feels, not how he's doing. Because if you ask him how he's doing,
he's just gonna say
that's
good.
Associated with performance.
Yeah.
And we are wired like machine. I'm good.
Yep.
And so, man, thank you, JoJo, man.
Thank you
good
for
brother,
having me, man.
for
Thank
joining us live, man. So, guys, y'all, please tune in. This live will be saved. We're going to be chopping it up and sort of posting different clips on that. And thank you to the ladies who stayed on. And listen, I want to say this. You are not a healer, ladies. You can support a brother, but you don't have to heal a brother. You can
That's
give
up to
my
him.
book.
That's up to him to heal himself.
That's up to him.
You can't
That's
heal
up
him.
to
Only
him.
he can heal himself.
Yes, only he can heal himself. Even Jesus asked the man, will thou be made whole? So what that mean? Healing is a choice.
It is.
You can send that brother my book, Just Heal Bro. And yes, this is a plug because it's an amazing book. It's a journal. And we're going back on tour next week for our 30th city in Pittsburgh. So I'm so happy about that. It's been 3 years that we've been on the road with this tour, averaging 400 to 700 men, helping these brothers open up, helping these brothers get healed, helping these brothers find a reason to keep living. Again, I'm Dr. Jay Barnett, and this is our series, How Do You Feel, Bro? And we've just had a great live and a great session, man, with my good brother, JoJo Simmons.
Thank
man.
you. Thank you, guys.
brother.
Yeah, have a great night. I appreciate you all.